covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Kyleman and Jim Mernier.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the 50-yard fight. This is Inside the Walls podcast. I am Jim Mernier. Alongside me, 900 miles away, Zach Kyleman.
How we doing, man? Good to be on.
Well, technically it's 971, so I just say 900.
It's still so long, so far away.
It's still a 4.5-hour plane flight from Jacksonville. If I ever want to go to Indianapolis, and I don't want to go to Indianapolis.
Oh, shame.
Unless a team gets blessed in your area. But again, speaking, that's in the future. But speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 44 of Inside the Walls podcast. Week 6 is in the books. But before we get into week 6 coverage and all the stuff that happened this past week, remember this. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at InWallsPod. Follow all of our videos or catch up on all of your videos at YouTube/Inside the Walls or NationalArenaLeague.com/videos. You can find us there too, as we are the official podcast of the National Arena League. So let's get into some week 6 action. Some ups, some downs, some controversy as usual in the league. Can't have arena football without controversy. It's either the NAL or the old AFL back in the day. But let's start with a AFL champion, AFL MVP, a MVP performance in his debut in the National Arena League that helped prevail the 1-4 Jacksonville Sharks over the undefeated Carolina Cobras, Arvell Nelson, as he took the Jacksonville Sharks into Carolina and pulled off a 59-57 upset victory in Greensboro. First off, I want to say to the fans, especially to the announcers in Carolina, thank you for all the shout-outs on the they shut us out. No,
go away.
Shout-outs. Yeah.
Go away inside the walls.
Go away. I just want to say thank you guys for the support. We appreciate that. We're helping you guys get some information too. I just want to say thank you to them. But one thing I do want to say, a big shout out to them. That had to be one of the most exciting coverages of a NAL game I've heard in a while, because they were balanced. They were not just accurate. They were keeping just not Jacksonville as a underdog, but they were also keeping Carolina as the home team. They were very even keel, which I really appreciated. Not a lot of announcing groups, not just in the NAL, in other leagues, they covered their team and they just are home team. The Carolina staff, great even coverage. Much respect to you guys. Rob Storm and the ownership group, you guys are doing a great job. I'm not pulling the hairs of you guys for all the appreciation that you guys give us, but just want to say it was a good balanced game, coverage of the game, and the game didn't disappoint. And it was kind of interesting that we kept. I don't think it was just it was just me. They were asking questions like, is there a quarterback controversy in Jacksonville? And I literally said, there's no quarterback controversy in Jacksonville. Jacksonville found their quarterback this Saturday. And they kept bringing the question all the time on the coverage. And they go, well, Inside the Walls believes. So that's a big deal for me and a big deal for us, I think, Zach, is that now people say, well, if the side of the wall believes this, it's most likely very accurate to their sources and connections. But overall, besides, the cover, I know they did a great job covering, but as an announcing team, it's hard to, cover a loss. And first loss for the Carolina Cobras. Me and you both got the game wrong in pick'ems. Even me, the Shark fan himself, got this game wrong. But they found their quarterback. That was the best I've seen Jackson's offense all season long. And every time it felt like Jacksonville got the ball, you knew they were going to score. And I don't think you could say that a lot when Henry was in the game a couple of weeks ago. But this is very impressive by the Sharks. Big time win. Gets them back into conversation in the NAL.
Well, it absolutely does. And, got to give kudos. Arvell Nelson, I we put a lot of praise on for the type of quarterback he can be when he is up and ready. He was ready to go right out of the gate. And I mean, I think this is the type of arena game I like the best. It all comes down to one or two moments in time that define how the flow of the game or how the flow of a contest goes. Because really, I mean, as much as we're giving Jacksonville, Arvell Nelson was up and down the field all day. Jonathan Bain and company, they were up and down the field all day. Credit Bain more and more. It's funny. He's trending. I don't know if it's just us giving a curse ever since Coach Rez has talked to us on an episode of this show, but it's week over week over week. Jonathan Bain is getting more and more pressure and has been taken down the turf more and more. Kudos to the Sharks because they made it, they put up 57, but they made it a living hell to get that 57 at some points. And they were going blow for blow. Honestly, when Carolina got within a point going into halftime, I thought, okay, well, if this game keeps continuing the way it is and trending in the direction it's been, Carolina right now might pull off the same thing it did last time against Jacksonville, where they'll get the last possession, the final TD, and we'll go, well, another close loss for the Sharks. What really pulled it out is that first opening drive in the third quarter, yeah, sure, the Cobras got within the 10, but the Sharks chomped down and locked down on that first possession. TC Stevens had an awkward miss of sorts on a short field goal, which was crazy. That game flipped as soon as that happens. That is, to me, that is where the good arena football game is, high scoring, and you can pinpoint the exact moment in time where all it takes is one good stop, where that defense came up in one crucial spot, because scoring's the norm in this league. It should be the norm. Defensive battles aren't really a thing that people look forward to in arena. You look forward to every possession, high-flying action down the field. And that's exactly what happened, except at the beginning of the third quarter. So if I'm Coach Rez, I'm looking back at this game, I'm going, man, we couldn't get off the field. And quite frankly, we couldn't finish all our drives. Jacksonville finished every drive with a score in this game. Also,
I was going to say, and also, right entering the second half, Jacksonville hits a deuce.
That is true. And that's something that also wasn't showing up. Barber started hitting deuces. TC Stevens had one at the beginning, but he was kind of off for the night. If you can't match up, if you're having a kicker on the other side that can go, toe to toe with you, that's less of it. I mean, you're not getting those 2 points advantages. You're not getting the extra points consistently. And, like I said, the fact that TC missed a field goal, you look at how that game ended, where Jacksonville, now credit, things can change, fate and all, but the way Jacksonville almost gave this game away to Carolina with that final possession. I mean, we could have been talking about how the Cobras walk away with a 1-point win right now. This was a good arena game. This is what I want to see almost every week, at least one of these out of the 3 matchups we get max a week.
Yeah, and also a crucial moment that happened at the end of the game was the penalty, offensive holding at the end of the game. People said, well, that should be a 10-second runoff. I got more clarification from that from league sources. It was off of an incomplete pass. Now, if they ran the ball and it was offensive holding, the clock keeps running, then the 10-second runoff is in effect.
Correct,
It was an incomplete pass. That's why there wasn't a 10-second runoff. And then the Cardiac Sharks did it again, let you guys all the way down the last couple of seconds. But it was just strange in watching this game. Jacksonville's offense, like the 31 game streak ended for Wilson's touchdowns. It lasted one game. First touchdown was then he went off. Then Wilson went off. Rob Jones went off. Naquan Murray, I think, was the best game he had with Nelson. Nelson fits this offense better than Henry. I think that's how the offense was developed. So for a lot of Jacksonville fans are like, where's Faithful? What's going on? I think they can now be reassured that they got a quarterback now that can make that offense look like that against Carolina. What do you think he can do it, make it look like against Orlando and San Antonio, who are coming up in the next couple of weeks? It's almost day and night, dude. It's almost day and night.
Well, and again, why this looks like this. We talked about it, going into the final walkthrough here. Arvell Nelson's an arena quarterback. He is a proven arena quarterback. And everything that I liked about Arvell when we talked last week showed up in this matchup against Carolina. What does he do? He gets the ball out of the pocket quick. He doesn't wait around. No one's going to get in his face. He gets that ball either in the stands or he gets it down to a check down. If he's got time, he's got the actually to drop it down the field. And if he gets time and that pocket breaks down, He's got the legs. Dude is a 6'6", 6'5" quarterback that can lower the shoulder and pound down linebackers with ease. He can do it all. That is a very versatile weapon. The only question we had last week was how ready is he being 2 years away from the game? No, he's fine. So at this point, point, your main objective anymore is how do we control a 6'5" quarterback that can maneuver out of the pocket, run downfield with ease, and it has a cannon for an arm. That was the same question that the AFL had when he was with the Valor, and when he was, of course, with the Gladiators. So best of luck. Defenses are going to be really challenged here for Jacksonville.
And coming up with San Antonio and Orlando in the Shark Tank back-to-back weeks. For Shark fans, this is what you wanted. You wanted we were hoping to just split the first 6, go 1-6 because it's a tough schedule. You went 2-4. Now you got a second half of schedule where you can feast. So you can literally say 8 wins may not be out of the possibility for a Shark team that just a couple weeks ago we're like, I don't know if this team can even complete a 5-yard out route.
Well, I knocked them down a point because I was power rankings selection because I was so embarrassed at how they came out against Albany. Now, it's funny, Albany, they got basically the old Sharks team. We won't get to know really how that pans out, how they match up against Arvell in there now. But now you have a QB that doesn't have to learn on the fly about the NAL style game. He knows this game. It's arena without the nets. That's as simple as what it is.
And I was talking to one of our he's one of our guys on our chat that we're with. I go, man, now I really want to see this Jacksonville Shark team against Albany, because the team, the quarterback that gave Albany all these troubles in the AFL days is now in Jacksonville, because Nelson went into Albany, beat Tommy Grady and that loaded team with the Washington Valor back in the day. And even when he was with Atlantic City, gave Albany a heck of a time every time he played him. I think he beat him one out of the 2 meetings, and that one meeting when he was there. So I want to see this Jacksonville offense against that Albany team. And we got 8. Well, we got 7 weeks. No, we got 8 weeks left of the NAL season.
Mm-hmm.
We got 8 weeks left, and if Jackson finds a way to be that 3 or that 4 seed and matches up with Albany, we might get that chance again. But it's not out of the realm of things, because it's now become a cluster for the race for who's going to make the bottom 2 of the playoffs. Now with 3 teams separated by a half a game between each other.
Well, I think that we'll talk about how this affects the race with these other 2 contests here, because I think for 2 of the teams in the 4 in these next 2 games, you're going to start wondering if Jacksonville now has all the pieces together. If they have Arvell, who can go toe for toe with the likes of an Albany or a Carolina, where does that leave you in the race for the 4th spot at that point? Because Jacksonville, sure, they're not the 3rd right now. They're fighting for 4th, but I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, that schedule coming up this month, the month of June, going into July. I mean, I'm not going to say it's padding, but on paper, if I'm a dude that's coming off the street and looking on the website real quick, I'm going, oh wow, that's a lot of stuff that's very winnable.
For the next 6 games are in the Shark Tank, and against teams that are not Carolina and not Albany. Exactly.
I was going to say, speaking of the team that's above them right now,
yeah, you're going to Orlando, correct? My segue was going to be different. Is Jacksonville going to be this year's Orlando Predators from last season?
That's a good point, and I think that I want to see that matchup only because the continued development of Rakeem Cato and like settling into what Jeff Higgins wants. More and more I'm going, I cannot wait to watch this kid play against some of the top games again, because I watched how he's running around like Arvell, except he's got a skinnier frame. I love how he's able to expertly throw kind of like the sidearm passes, and he's been getting a smooth spiral on that ball. He's connecting really well.
It works in the game.
Yes,
one thing that's starting to impress me by the Orlando Predators is they were in dogfight with San Antonio early in the second half, and you were looking like, is San Antonio, Robert Kent was making magic, because there was a couple of plays that San Antonio did in that game. You're like, oh, this is ESPN top 10.
Yeah.
Like, there were some catches you're like, wow, this is incredible. But you can start seeing Cato, Outlaw, Beavers just separating themselves from San Antonio. And maybe it's because San Antonio got a few new signings this week and they're still trying to learn the game. But you could tell that Cato is getting himself in the know of Orlando, understanding the offense. Higgins is coaching the team right. And yes, people say, well, Orlando's 2 wins are against San Antonio. They've lost against everyone else they played. Yeah, it's because how the schedule is. Orlando is, in my opinion, right now, each and every game, especially when they played Carolina and Albany a couple of weeks ago, they have progressed as each game they played. Questionable calls, whatever, throw it out. They're progressing. In this game against San Antonio, they outright dominated San Antonio in the second half. And it's, for me, even looking at San Antonio, I'm like, they're also getting better. They're just not, it's not showing up on the record right now, but you can tell they're getting better. It's a team. Robert Kent's starting to slow down that offense for those guys. It's just Orlando has been through trials and tribulations already with 3 teams that back-to-back weeks. They're like, come on, really? Like, they were in striking range in both those games, and the other team, Albany, pulled away. Then they almost beat Carolina. And it's arena football. Crazy things happened before. But this time, Orlando was getting the bounces. They were getting the turnovers, and I think they scored on every possession besides one. I think I need to go back and check. I think it's like the second or first possession in the third quarter, second quarter that they didn't score, but the rest they scored every time they got to touch the ball. And if you do that, you win.
Right. Well, one alone, I mean, was a freak fumble recovery for a touchdown. Honestly, I was wondering if San Antonio was going to run with that momentum, and keep up, because that flipped a possession right off the gate. It was a 14-point swing just from that, because they got a touchdown, they caught back up, standard, kind of keeping pace.
Wide open touchdown on their first possession. Then they get the turnover and the pickup right into the end zone. A 14-point swing. You can't say a typical 14-point swing in a
No, I mean,
game.
it's not that was untypical. I mean, it was a great job knocking it for, Larry Beavers was carrying that out of the end zone. I'm spacing on the defender who knocked out the ball right at that moment, but Sparrow's the one that picked it up out of the air, and it's a 5-yard scamper in for the end zone. Real easy swing for that.
It really reminded me of last year, Jacksonville, San Antonio. Wide open touchdown, then that kick by Brandon Bear that popped off the wall and Jackson covered it. It was just like that. They took the lead, and it just seemed like after that, Orlando was like, "No, we're done with this. You ain't getting this momentum," and they shut it down. It's just for me. I watched that game. San Antonio, you can tell the progression San Antonio has done since week 1. Yeah. It's just you're on the road in Orlando, in the jungle, and Orlando just made bigger plays at key situations in the game that determined that outcome. If this game was in San Antonio and that stuff happened, like that 14-point swing, most likely San Antonio wins that game because they keep the momentum in their home crowd. It's on the road. I think the next possession was Cato run out. Cato did like one run that was like 10, 12 yards to the end zone, and it looked like that game. It was, you could tell San Antonio was like, it was a nice trip to Orlando. But yeah, it was a very unique game. But for Orlando's sake, you're 2-3 now. You're in the thick of things between the 3 teams right now in the mid pack. But for San Antonio, 0-4, going to Jacksonville this weekend, another tough contest. A team in Jacksonville that's starting to look like they're finding themselves. You don't want to go 0-5 going back to San Antonio, but I hate to say this, man, but that was San Antonio's best chance to get a win on the road before coming back to San Antonio in week 7.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about a tough slate. I mean, Jacksonville now it's even more so than how it's been. Albany, they do get to host a home, but again, I mean, the Empire, we've talked at length about the amount of talent they have. They get another crack at the Predators, of course, later in the year. I mean, I think it's just a lot of development and just seeing where this organization is.
Correct.
Again, this is an organization just switched ownership, only about a week plus ago, officially. So they're trying to figure this all out. So I think really, see how this plays out. I don't think any team, I hope no team finishes winless, and that's not a saying that's going to happen. But there's a lot of tough sledding here with how much the talent is stacked in the league above them right now. And I think, I watched, I saw good things. Like I'm saying, I saw a team that offensively was figuring some things out. It seemed was getting some strides, but I saw them also still start and stop at times, or it wasn't as consistent as it needed to be. And it's just going against an opponent that, Orlando, just like last year, even though I know it's not Ben Bennett anymore, it's Jeff Higgins, but same deal. They're figuring themselves out a little more each week. It seems like that, the Predators offensively this year have taken much bigger strides. Defensively, it's either been injuries or they just, Iron Man has not been as kind, it seems, to opportunities when they played against opponents. I'm starting to realize that defensively, the Preds aren't what they were last season. Maybe it is because the specialist opportunities, Brandon Fuentes not being in, maybe you could argue being that key piece. I don't know what it is, but right now, seems like last few games have been more just like barn burners for them, trying to keep pace, which is not how the Preds have done it did last year. But hey, Cato's been looking better. Lonnie Outlaw was a lot more involved in this game than he has been in recent weeks. Obviously, Larry Beavers, Williams, surprise target that came out of nowhere that looks like is one of Cato's favorites right now. At least it was this week. You like to see some diversifying of the portfolio if you get my drift. So it's up and up. I look forward to, especially when we talk about the walkthrough against the Lions coming up, this Friday. I'm going to save as much as thoughts as I can on that, but I mean, that to me will really put in place, like, okay, where are we at here? Where are you guys at in terms of the top 4 in the in or out playoff scenario? Because I mean, that's your biggest test since you played Carolina and Albany. So, it'll be the next big one for you until you play Jacksonville. That is.
Why my mic's muted? I don't know. For Orlando's sake, in my opinion, you're playing Columbus this week. Columbus is coming off a little shaky game from last week. But overall, this Orlando team in the last 2 weeks, much improved. And Higgins' offense, it looks like if you go back from week 1, we say it was an ugly game between both San Antonio and Orlando. Who will get better in that stretch? Orlando's gone through, I think, a tougher stretch of games than San Antonio, and Orlando has looked a lot better. And if there was Vegas odds, like, how Vegas does everything right now, like, oh, we can throw an odd out there. Right now, based off odds, if you want to do playoff expectancy right now, I think Orlando and Jacksonville have a better playoff expectancy right now than Columbus does, because of what Columbus has done over the last couple of weeks.
Well, what they're suffering from right now too, when we get into that too.
But for the cap off Orlando, you got a game against, of course, Columbus. Not going to touch on that game. That's for the final walkthrough.
Yep.
But one thing that for Orlando's, let's say, building blocks, keep building what you're doing. Basically, you're doing what Ben Bennett did last year. Start off sluggish. Midway through season, you were still getting wins, but it didn't look good, and then you finish off strong. Still got 8 weeks left in the season, and you got 3 big games against your rival, Jacksonville, coming up. So it's going to be pretty key over the next couple of weeks is where Jacksonville and Orlando stand in the race when we get closer to the actual playoff push here in about 4 or 5 weeks, so we can actually start talking about postseason. But yeah, I think the building blocks are there. Lonnie Outlaw's there, and there's a couple other players there in Orlando that are making the Orlando team completely different. It feels like there's more energy. It feels like there's more buzz. And Cato, you can say you can take credit for it, Zach, about him calming down and learning the offense and playing more arena style.
He did. He's been doing that. Even more so this game. I have been impressed that it's not a scramble drill every other play. He looks like he is actually settling in the pocket, and he knows when to bail now. That's what's nice. That is, I mean, like I said, his development, I can't wait to see him play Jacksonville and Columbus here, because like I said, that to me, he is the key cog to them possibly locking up that 4 seed if they have a chance. That's my honest opinion there.
Yeah. So, and it's going to be very interesting. 3 games against Jacksonville coming up pretty soon. That's going to be very key for both teams. And also for San Antonio, you guys are going to Jacksonville. We'll talk about that game on Friday. Keep building. That's the only thing I got to say. I think this season is going to be a very hard season for y'all. find a way to get back home, get some wins, and get home. That's the only way to get back to the Freeman. But overall, got one more game to talk about, and
Yes, we
it's
do.
a game that got a lot of fans intrigued, questioning a lot of things, but we won't get into all of that. In Columbus, the Albany Empire went down there, had a little, again, travel issues like Jacksonville did going up to Albany. Heard from sources they got to the game or to Columbus on game day at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
That's difficult for a traveling team, not just for the NL, for any sport. And there's some things I see people talk about online, like, well, they should have done this or should have done this. We're not the National Football League. We don't have millions of dollars that we can, rent out a 747 to go direct to a city. Can't do that in the National Arena League. They actually have to go travel like me and you, have to go to the airport, gotta get tickets, gotta get to our flight. Oh, the flights were delayed? Dang. Well, looks like I gotta wait for another flight. The airport's closed. Well, crap.
Tom Manas said it best on his own. They're doing a new coaches show now for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something he says, like, yeah, on the ride to Newark, we had like 2 different crashes delayed and like some other medical emergency. And then they get to Newark, multiple flight delays. Then you go fly down. Like, it's just a big pile of out of my hands. You know what I'm saying? You can't control that stuff. And they still got down there for the game. That's the thing.
They still found a way to get down there. Same like Jacksonville still found a way to get up to Albany last week. These situations happen in these type of leagues because any of these owners do not have the budget to go rent themselves a nice, Air Force One type of aircraft, 747. Right. And it's like, go direct, not the National Arena League or in National Football League. Can't do that. But let's speak on the game itself. Man, I think Jamar Fortson wins Ironman of the week. The guy played 3 positions. He played quarterback, he played DB, played wide receiver. Columbus went through 3 quarterbacks: Darren Daniels, Danny Southwick, Jeremiah Fortson. And it was so ugly that it's one of these ugly arena games that you look at and go 39-31. That's not an arena football score. Maybe a good high score in another league, but not in arena football.
These 2 beat up on each other. That's the best I can put on it.
There's a hatred between the 2 teams. And usually, like what Gibson said last week, he said it's not a rivalry until someone else wins the rivalry. And I've always said, in my scenario of the rivalry, a rivalry happens when the unexpected happens that sparked the rival. Like I've always said that the Jacksonville-Columbus rivalry started when Mason Espinosa fumbled that snap in the NAL championship game.
Yeah,
even though Columbus didn't win that rival game, it was still that's how it brewed. There was moments in this game in Columbus, you can sense that there's a rivalry between these teams, even though Albany controls the series 4-0. There's something between it. Maybe it's because of what happened in the championship game last year. Maybe it was an altercation that happened this week. You can tell that these 2 teams despise each other. And as me and you, as people who cover the league, we need more rivalries in the league. Is that like Jacksonville, Columbus there needs to be other rivalries. This, even though it was an ugly game and there's situations that happen on the field that you can find out on the website and transactions, you can see players got suspended. We're not going to get into that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Our opinions are not the opinions of the National Arena League. So if we say something, people may expect that it's the opinion of the National Arena League, and we don't want to get that misconstrued.
Exactly.
But overall, it was an ugly game. Like Albany couldn't get anything going. Columbus didn't get anything going. It's like you digging a hole in the middle of the beach in sand. You're like, oh crap, I found the seashell. Well, you found something. That's what happened in that game. They found something to score. I watched that game at the same time with the Jacksonville game. I had all 3 games. I was watching all 3. It just felt like when momentum started to happen in Columbus, something always happened to kill that momentum. Penalty, turnover, bad possession, long drives that were coming up with no points. I think Columbus had a drive. They went all the way from like their 1 yard line to the goal line of Albany and didn't score. And it ate up like 8 minutes of the clock. That's killer. That don't care who you are. That kills like 3 possessions in that one drive. But overall, that game, how ugly it was more of like this is the birth of the Columbus and Albany rivalry. It has a lot of it. If you had blueprints, you look at the blueprints, Columbus win, not really. Is there a moment in any of these games that could have started this? Yes, possibly. Check that. Means that checklist is almost there for a rivalry. I just want to think rivalry except for Jacksonville Columbus, man. I want something else.
Sure.
But
yeah.
But overall, I looked at this game. Both quarterbacks, even though Sam Castronova's been having a great year, this has to be his worst game so far this season. Danny Southwick didn't look good. Fortson came in, emergency quarterback. Okay, he scored a touchdown. Then Darren Daniel came in and it just felt like it was just sluggish after it, like they couldn't get anything going. Overall, there were some good performances out by the receivers on both sides. Again, Fortson was making plays as a receiver and making plays as DB. But it just felt like this game just every time I want to keep going, it got hit with something.
So stop and start. And I know, I got to give a lot of praise to the Lions and to what Jason Gibson's game plan was. They basically came out and said, we're going to match energy with what Albany's doing right out of the gate. Yeah. And we're going to take away their best weapon and try and get to Sam as much as possible. They did all that. Darius Prince had one catch in this game. It was a touchdown at the end, which really was the game sealer, but still up until that point, defensively, Columbus was doing everything in their power to slow down Albany. And I know that I know some folks have talked, well, they had the long fight. Yeah, whatever. They still came out, they and theoretically punched Albany in the teeth and said, hey, we're going to keep up with you as long as we got opportunities. Now credit, there were some that they left out on the table. Honestly, they had chances to pull this one out and get an upset, in my opinion. Yeah. And I think Jason Gibson's really right now kicking himself with some time off over Memorial Day weekend going, I really could have won this game if a few things go a different way. If Southwick's healthy going in the second half, I think there's a better chance. You don't have to have a Darren Daniel come out of emergency inactive to, put on the pads and say, all right, here we go. He had the brace on and everything. And, after having to rush him out, he threw threw TDs, but, you could tell he wasn't ready to be completely thrown into that spotlight. It just, and Albany,
it looks like a guy who hasn't practiced all week.
Right, exactly. And that was even mentioned on the broadcast. He's like, hey, he hasn't really, we don't think or know of him touching any snaps this week. I'm like, I bet he really hasn't been able to, so when Southwick going down, it really made me think like, dang, is Fortson really going to have to carry this through the next half? And, luckily, they made it a game. I got to give Columbus a ton of credit. Like I said, holding Albany to 39, that's something that's pretty impressive. It's just that the Empire, because of some of the ineptitude on offense, because of these circumstances that Columbus is going through in key places, like, obviously in your QB department, some of your linemen, you have a line issue with injury as well. It's kind of hard to keep up, As for Albany, they don't walk out of this game unscathed either. They lose Ryan Orozco in this game. That's arguably, you can argue that's the best kicker in the league right now.
Yeah, he's a deuce machine, and that was key. And we also mentioned last week's show that it's very hard to kick deuces in Columbus.
It is.
I don't know why it's so difficult. There's no wind in there. There's no AC.
I think it's the ceiling. I think I heard it was a ceiling from Craig. Yeah, Craig. Actually, it's funny. If I remember this right, I did an interview with him off this show from one of my old podcasts, and my understanding of there was that it's a lower ceiling, so you have to do more of a streamlined kick. There's less of an arc on it, So you really have to you have to find a way to nail that sucker and really just kind of dart it into the goal.
So basically, you can't do a draw or fade. You have to hit what Tiger Woods used to do, a freaking cut
right.
Zing. Not a cut shot. What do you call the freaking?
I call it a beamer. You have to beam that thing, and
I guarantee people are watching who are big golf people. Stinger. There you go.
Okay, that's it.
Stinger.
All you need to know is that Columbus Civic Center isn't any Amway Arena where the things like FN3 2 to 3 plus stories
It's
up
not
there.
It's not MVP. It's not Amway. It's not ViStar. Yeah, you can kick, boomers and all those other arenas, just not in Columbus. I think, and it's strange is that Columbus, again, they weren't doing either. They were doing a lot of directional kicks. Did a couple of them where they kicked the ball in the field of play, then it went out in the end zone, which was technically like a touchback to the 5-yard line. So they were doing their best to keep Albany's offense from not going. And one thing that Gibson pretty much showed it from people I've talked to throughout the league, people are starting to figure out how to play Darius Prince, bump him, be physical with him, make him earn it. Because Columbus this weekend, every time I see Prince get off the line, he was going to hit.
Yep.
And that slowed down the reps. And I think Coach Resinalo and Carolina's going to see that. And then Columbus may do it again when they play later in the year, and San Antonio may see that, and they'll start going, okay, this is how we play Darius Prince. And it's, Darius is a damn good athlete. He's gonna win awards. He may not like it, like he said on his on the coaches show today with Albany. He's like, he's not there for individual awards, but when players say that, this is what my coach said in high school. You want an individual award from school, like a player? Yeah. Do you really want it to represent your legacy? Yeah. Then you care about it? Yeah. What happens if someone says they don't want that individual award? Do they really care about it? No, they care about it. They just don't want to represent it. Just saying, Darius Prince is a beast. And I know him. If he wins an award, he's going to show it. Everyone says, even though they think team first, I know everyone's mentality. I was like that in high school. I guarantee you were like that in high school. And there's hundreds of players around this country, thousands of players around the country. They think team before individual. And that's what Prince's mindset is. I just when he made that comment, I'm like, man, he's not the only one that says that, but deep down inside, they're team oriented first. And Darius Prince, like if me and you went 1-on-1 with Darius Prince, he would dust both of us. I'm just gonna say.
I know. Oh no. There's.
I'm a D lineman, man. I'm a D lineman. I'm not no DB.
Really? Do you think either one of us want to test that? I'm like I said, I'm definitely more a D lineman. I'd rather be trying to go against I mean, Ziegler probably in Carolina would beat me or, someone like that, but, or Cisse, if I tried to go against him, maybe have a little more, I don't know. I'm still only 6 foot. Like, think about that. I'm not really the right lineman size, even for pro level.
Yeah.
So,
I'm 5'9" or 5'11", depending on what store I walk into, some people get the measurements wrong. But yeah,
variance.
yeah. One thing I do like about this game against Columbus and Albany, physical. Both teams very physical
much.
with it. And when I mentioned like this is the start of something, Albany fans may not think it, Columbus fans may not think, but I think it is. I think this is the start of a rivalry that the Arena League this league needs. It needs another marquee matchup between the two, and we might actually get another one here this Saturday night between Columbus and between Carolina and Albany. So it's intriguing. But Albany has now escaped 2 games in the last 3 weeks, and then Orlando and Columbus. They took care of Jacksonville last week, but I think teams are starting to figure out Albany right now, and they have a big matchup this week against Carolina, who's come off a tough loss to Jacksonville, so it's gonna be intriguing. But for Columbus, they got to go to Orlando. It's the first time they've gone to Orlando in 3 years, which is kind of strange. They didn't go to Orlando last year. They played them twice, but it was in Columbus. And it's a pivotal matchup, too. We're entering midway point. So on Friday's show, ladies and gentlemen, we'll do our mid-season report cards because we are halfway through the season. And those report cards are usually via power rankings. So,
right.
Just FYI, on Friday's show, ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be a lot of changes on both power rankings. So I'm very here's what I'm going to say. My number 1 has not changed, but there's a lot of mixtures on the bottom of that ranking that has switched a lot of spots. It's going to impress you. Maybe it's because Jacksonville got a new quarterback that made the rankings change. And also, Orlando's impressing me. So there's a lot of changes coming my way in the power rankings. So week 7 is coming up, halfway point through the NAL season. You can look on the website right now at nationalarenaleague.com, see where everything stands, look at upcoming games. We are not there yet, but we're fast approaching the time of year where wins and losses are crucial for a team to make the Final Four in the National Arena League. We're not
True.
there yet, but we got 3 teams that are separated by a half a game right now, competing for 2 spots, with that 4th team still trying to find a W in this season. So it's an interesting week in the National Arena League. A birth of a rivalry between Columbus and Albany. Did that actually happen? Did Jacksonville finally find their answer at QB? And will they pursue to get the 3rd ring in the National Arena League? And also, are the Predators going to do that 2021 comeback like they did last year this season? A lot of those questions are yet to be answered. But here on the NationalArenaLeague.com or National Arena League on YouTube, you can watch games on Friday and Saturday this week to see if those questions are answered. But for us here on the Inside the Walls podcast, remember, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Walls Pod, on the internet, NationalArenaLeague.com/videos, or our nice little section on the right side of the screen. Just scroll halfway down. You got all our videos there. Find us at NationalArenaLeague.com. All those questions will be answered this weekend. And we'll be here for the rest of the season. And we'll be live in the National Arena League Championship game on August 13th.
That's right.
It's getting close. We're halfway through of the 2022 season. Thank you for letting us, myself, and Zach help you on the journey of this fun and exciting and controversial season so far. It can't be controversial without arena football and vice versa. I'm Jim Renier. That's Zal Kalaman. And remember one thing.
Look, stay in the playoff hunt and don't be a jack out of the box.
We'll see you Friday, ladies and gentlemen, for the final walkthrough.